I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We are here at the Mobile Marketing Forum in New York City in 2012, and I'm having this pleasure of speaking with Hipcricket's Mr. Hasen. How are you today, sir?
Doing great, Tony. Thank you. Thank you for the formalities, but we go way back. We're great friends.
We do. Yes, we do. And I got to tell you, thank you very much for the copy of the book.
Of course.
Which we're going to talk about today, which is going to be the premise of the majority of our conversation here. And let's just jump right into it. You came out with the book. It's brand new. Give me the prologue.
Yeah, so the book is called Mobilize Marketing, and the subtitle is How to Drive Sales, Engagement, and Loyalty Through Mobile Devices. And it's a lot of what we talk about, you and I have talked about for years. But I go back to the first three words of the book, which are sell more beer. And it's the story of the head of digital at Miller Coors. And he has the same job that his predecessor in 1855 had, to move more product off the shelf. So to me, the what has never changed. The what is business results. The how is what this book is about. So what did 35 marketers do? What are the lessons that they learned? And it's everything from U.S. based to Latin America. And again, it all boils down to the questions you should ask. How fast should I go? How do I sell it into my organization? And people like my wife, who
you dedicated the book to as well.
I did. Thank you for remembering that. She has never done mobile, even though she's married to a guy who's been in mobile for 8 years.
Right.
So she's in financial services.
Okay.
And she works on websites and direct mail pieces, but now is the moment when she needs to go mobile. So she is actually the target of the book. She is the person who I intended, that type of person.
Okay.
So the strength of this book, really, Tony, is the people I interviewed. Louis Gump, who you know really well, CNN, Weather Channel. I tweeted this morning, I said, if you listen to one voice today, nobody knows more about where we've been and where we're going than Louis Gump. So I was smart enough, when I wrote this book, to call upon the smartest people, the Mike Wares of the world, to give us their insights.
It's funny you should sort of mention that. So obviously Michael Becker, wrote the prologue there.
Yep.
I saw that you mentioned Louis. I saw that you mentioned Mike. So Jeff, you and I have had 10 years worth of conversations surrounding mobile, and it's so great for me to pick up a book written by somebody who I admire, and somebody who I've had great conversations with over the years, and to read different portions of that of people that I know. So that, for me, it was really special. But for the people out there,
yeah.
What makes Jeff Hasen's book better than a lot of the other mobile books that are out there? I mean, I can tell them why, but I want you to tell them why.
Sure. Well, first off,
and if you don't want to tell them why, I can tell them why.
First off, there are a lot of good mobile books out there.
Right.
Okay. So Wiley Publishing came to me for two reasons. One, because of Hipcricket. Because of they said they identified us as a mobile marketing and mobile advertising leader, which is really cool. So this was actually an inbound call or an inbound email from Wiley. So they wanted a combination of the story of a mobile company and also the lessons of the world that we know as mobile. To me, the most interesting part about mobile and shows like this, and I talk to Michael Becker about this a lot, and I talk to you, it's about real life experiences and case studies. So I love theory, and but what I want to know is, how does Miller Coors decide how aggressively to go against mobile? So here's an example. So I asked him, I said, when was the moment? The moment.
The moment.
I didn't say the year of mobile. I said, when was the moment?
When was the year of mobile?
And he said some really insightful things. He said, the iPhone was great because it raised the awareness of mobile.
I think everybody would agree with that, yeah.
But it was not the time for Miller Coors to spend aggressively against mobile, because he knows his customer, which is, again, back to the principles of marketing, knowing who you're
sell more beer.
Who you're taught, right. So what he said was his young male primary audience, primary consumers, like choice.
Okay.
They like to not be dictated to. If you, I'm sure, remember, the iPhone was at a certain one price at one carrier, AT&T, for years.
For years.
So he was waiting for the moment when the Android came out and was available widely at different price points at different carriers, and that is his consumer. So he said that they They carry them around, and they're a vital part, but they weren't a vital part of the middle core's consumer when the iPhone was the only one really.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So it's those kinds of lessons. I talked to Microsoft about what can you learn from overseas versus what you might be able to bring here. And one of the big takeaways is that just because something works in Asia doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work here, even though it's cool. One of the other things, like the takeaways from this book that I talk about, are don't chase the shiny object.
Okay.
And we went to South by Southwest. I went for the first time this year, and I saw really cool things, but none of those should be implemented, or very few of those should be implemented by our brands at this point. So, an example is Foursquare and location-based services.
Okay.
So I'm a Foursquare member, although I'm not that active. There are about 20 million Foursquare members in the world. There are 6 billion phones. So what you want to do is to tap into the interests and behaviors of your consumers rather than the coolest thing that might be out there.
Okay.
So with all due respect, you need to go to South by Southwest for several reasons. One, you want to see what's coming. 2, there are a ton of brands there, so it was a great place for me to go and get into the heads of brands. But those, except for me, those were the cooler than cool people at that show. And that's primarily not who our brands are selling to. They're selling to mass America.
Mass, mainstream,
so some of those kinds of lessons. And in the book, there's also not everything done right. Some people made the wrong choice on choosing a vendor. So, they talk about what are the things you need to look for. An example is if they did something else 2 weeks ago and now they're in the mobile world, that's not necessarily the experience that you need, because this is a new channel, and what you want to do is you want to rely on people like Hipcricket and several other companies who have the track record.
Especially if you're a small company and you can't afford to make the mistakes that a larger brand would make, who can just eat it and move forward and make a better decision tomorrow. If you're a younger brand, it's not necessarily as cost effective.
Right, and I come to this show and I've got my hype meter up. And I'm always, you know me, I'm not one of those who says the world is completely gone mobile. And I even challenged, there was something from the podium that said, TV is dying, or TV is the Titanic. And Mary Mika just came out with her great presentation that she does every year, and 46% of the time spent in media is spent on television, which is 2x the number 2 activity, which is the web. Okay. So do you do something while you're watching television? Yes, that's the second screen.
Use your iPad.
Right.
Or a tablet, or whatever.
So what we want to do, and I purposely chose the marketers that I did in my book, because these are reasoned people who don't chase the shiny objects, people who say, I need to sell more houses, sell more beer. And it's funny, I'm kind of getting, oh, you're the sell more beer guy because you use that that line all the time. But to me, like I said, the what will never change.
Right. Okay.
And I've told you this, I think. So we're up to 175,000 campaigns.
Yeah, we talked about that at CTIA, and congratulations again to Hipcricket for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I think I've also said to you, and the number hasn't gone up. If you said to me, name the squishy results that were sought by a brand employing Hipcricket, there aren't any. And I've told you, Guinness wanted to drive brand affinity, so we had toasts on St. Patrick's Day with green beer. Okay, that's the one example that I can point to that where somebody wanted so-called squishy results. Everybody else needs to move product off the shelf. And so there are some great trends that I talk about in the book, choice being one of those. So Macy's, we've talked about the Backstage Pass.
I love the Macy's campaign.
Right,
yeah,
so Macy's doesn't dictate that if you drive a red sedan, you can shop on Tuesday. Same way they don't dictate that if you scan QR codes, you can participate in Macy's. So one of the big trends is the passive going interactive. And it's taken a really long time for some mass brands like Macy's to include mobile in their campaigns. And they're doing it, primarily to move product, but also for a CRM. For CRM reasons. So it's all about, our mobile advertising unit is growing really leaps and bounds at Hipcricket. And primarily because we have a post-click engagement strategy. Because our brands are not looking to have a one-time engagement via mobile ads, they're looking to have the relationship broadened and expanded.
Makes sense.
So it's exciting times. The 35 people that I chose, they really are the stars of the book, you know, and I got to talk about some of the cool campaigns that you and I have talked about over the years that still draw some oohs and ahs. You know, the car dealer after during the recession who sold 34 cars in one day.
Yeah, that was the very beginning of the book.
Yeah,
right?
and you know, you can't beat. So for those who don't know that story, he hadn't sold a car in over a month. This was pre-Cash for Clunkers. He added mobile to a radio campaign for a chance to win the chance to buy a car for $98. He ended up selling a car for $98, and he sold 34 cars that day. And that was a minimal purchase, and that was unsexy radio and unsexy text driving results. It wasn't the shiny thing that didn't bring anybody to the dealership.
Well, a must-read for everybody. It's available through
many places, your typical booksellers, but also Hipcricket.com. Online, Amazon, you know, the Nook, and all of those kinds of places as well. You know, I appreciate your support. It was great. You know, it sounds trite. It was a bit of a labor of love. You know, you get into this industry, and like I said, I'm fascinated. I know Louis Gump really well. You know, CNN, Weather Channel. But to be able to talk to him and pick his brain and talk about where we are, where he sees
and actually put pen to paper with it.
Yeah, it was a really cool project.
Fantastic, Jeff. Thanks for taking the opportunity to speak with us. Congratulations again about the book, and I can't wait for our next engagement.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you again.
Been speaking with Mr. Jeff Hasen of Hipcricket. Don't forget to pick up a copy of his book, which is
Mobilized Marketing.
I'm Tony Sklar here at the Mobile Marketing Forum in New York, 2012, with bnetTV.